Welcome to another episode of Warrior to Superhero. Now we are streaming in 7 locations. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on the Easy Way Wall, we're on Roku. Now we're even on Twitch. It's absolutely amazing. So I want to introduce you to the Superhero Battle Room. And today, our first guest, which is our honorary Warrior Superhero, is Jess Manfre. She is an author, she is a speaker, she's a licensed clinical social worker. She contributes to a lot of military and mil-spouse collaborations. And she came on here to tell her story and say how she transformed from warrior to superhero. So we're going to bring her in. Hey,
Hello.
Jess, do I have you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And now the lag has gone down. Even better.
Technology.
Yeah, technology. So wanted to thank you for joining our show, and I wanted to hear your war hero story. I know you're not directly military, and I know you fight the fight at the home front and on the mil-spouse front, but we'd love to hear how you got involved into our little collaboration group called the Military Veterans and First Responders.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Don't really think of myself as a hero. I just cringe a little bit. I think a lot of us are like that. But my story, I've been married to my husband who is active duty in the Coast Guard. And we've been together almost 15 years. And so, you know, it's definitely been challenging. I would say, like, as you become a seasoned spouse, I think it just gets so much easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he's been in active almost 20 years. I really, truly didn't get very involved other than volunteering and doing the other things that I've always naturally done, just because my background is social work. Until the government shutdown, which impacted, you know, the Coast Guard, as well as our, you know, other federal employees. And I just really kind of dove deep and started seeing a lot of these needs, you know, with our junior enlisted. I mean, you know, when we missed paychecks, like, it was rough. It was really hard. As you know, 80% of the military families live out on the economy. They're not on base. So, you know, having those families out there who didn't have the security of living in housing, it just really opened my eyes. And so I would say the last year and a half, I've just really been digging deep and trying to find ways that I can impact and serve the military community. And then I'm also a writer too. So I'm always seeking out stories and ways that I can uplift our community and serve them that way.
Yeah, so let's dig into deep of that. So how did it personally affect you on that low point? Like when the government shut down, you talking about the 2008 government shutdown? You talking about the recent with the COVID shutdown? Which shutdown are you talking about?
2019, January, when we had, I believe it was like 32 days, maybe 36.
Oh yeah, during the contracts, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, we had that shutdown. We fortunately were living on base. We were stationed out of Cape May, which is where the Coast Guard boot camp is. So we were okay. And I got to be honest, you know, my husband and I were together for the 2008 shutdown, and because it lasted, you know, what, a few days, like, I think even his mindset was like, this is going to be nothing. It's going to be nothing. But I just had this pit in my stomach, and I was like, it's not. Like, I know this is going to be bigger than you think it is. And so we were fortunate. We lived in housing. I think he listened to me because I was a little paranoid, and we, you know, just really scrimped and saved, didn't spend money. And then there in our base, the people around me listened too. And we started the first pantry in the country for our base, serving our population. And so we opened that on January 2nd. And our first missed paycheck wasn't until January 15th. So all that time, all of our service members and their families were coming straight to our pantry to get everything that they needed. Diapers, wipes, food, I mean, anything you could think of. And so all that money they would have spent on groceries, you know, $200-300 a week, if you have a family, they were able to save and utilize for their bills. So we were very fortunate, you know. Could have been much worse.
So even though you didn't go through a low point, you felt the low point of everybody else, and that's what made you dive into the community. Because I remember myself, I'm a reservist. Now I'm a full-timer during the month as a GS employee, and then at night I'm doing this. I remember losing $10,000 of contracts. My IRS tax return went away, and I remember I was like scrambling. I'm like, they just went like, boop, all your work for the next 3-4 months is now gone, and it never came back because I worked in the training world. It never came back. They just decided, like, we didn't get trained this year. Let's refresh in 2020, and you never got that opportunity back. Like I was literally, I think, days from like going out, and they're like, nope, gone.
It's devastating.
Yeah. So that's cool that you stepped up the game in that, because we have people that are connected in multiple different facets. We have like people like myself that are, hey, 1099 employees that are growing and working with the government, or you have people that are directly on the base that were impacted, or GS employees. And we have probably hundreds of thousands of GS employees across the DoD. So it's really cool that you stepped up.
Yeah, I was
So
scared. I was terrified, but I mean, it really does take a village. I was lucky that we had a command that was like, yeah, go do it. And then I had this like basic army of military spouses come around me and say, we're going to do this with you, because you don't go alone. I don't know who said it, but I've been hearing this a lot. It's collaboration over competition. And I think it's so powerful, and it's something that I live by. Of course you can shine on your own. You can do things, I'm very proud of the work that I do, but when we work together and we partner, I don't know, magic happens.
Yeah, I've been hearing that movement for the past year and a half, especially even when COVID kicked in. It's like, it's like each year has a different thing. And maybe it's that 2020 vision or something, but that's
Yeah.
really cool that people have been kind of doing that, because we've been competing for a long time, even in the mill space, the veteran space, the mill spouse space. Like, I am bigger than you and blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to work with you. And I'm like, you're both doing the same mission. So I'm kind of glad that we're doing this more of a collaboration
Right.
piece in helping people grow. So cool. So
Okay.
after that, and you started helping people in that, like, what was the next steps in your transformation? So was this the bug that bit you to get involved in more things? You're like, wow. And then you just jumped in more.
So the Coast Guard tends to get treated like the stepchild, right? Like, are they military? Are they not? It's just like this thing, right?
Yeah.
But through the government shutdown and what I did with the pantry, I was nominated as Military Spouse of the Year, and I ended up winning for Coast Guard. And I really think that's what kind of, I guess, lit me up, if you will, because you almost feel like that imposter syndrome. Like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, I just did the right thing, right? Like, that's the mindset. And after the MSOI Awards, and I ended up collaborating with the Army Spouse of the Year, Maria Reed. She has a show, Moving with the Military, and she reached out to me and she's like, hey, we've never done a makeover for a Coast Guard family. I really want to work with you. And that's all it took. Someone saying, hey, like, I see what you're doing. Come alongside me. And we did that, and it just snowballed from there. We ended up becoming very close friends with a couple others. We formed a nonprofit. But I guess I had to have that moment of like, yeah, I can do this. I think a lot of times as military spouses, we tend to wait in the wings, right?
Yeah.
We, I've heard this a lot, like, when he retires, then I'll, fill in the blank, whatever it may be. And while it never stopped me from doing things, pursuing jobs or pursuing education, I still always had that, like, oh, I'm not going to do anything big because, again, he's, serving. But I guess after all that, I just realized that we can work as a team and we can do these things together. It doesn't have to stop me from pursuing something I'm passionate about or diving into, certain projects that I really want to, take part in.
Yeah, it's like, instead of that 50-50 or someone's sacrificial at home, it's like, how can we both 100% serve each other to empower our dreams and destiny? And that's huge. And that's a big revelation I think a lot of mill spouses and military don't get. It's like, hey, or you even see this in the Christian world, the pastor and the pastor's wife has that same sort of mentality, or sometimes pastor's husband, depending on the, church and whatnot. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, I'm just going to continue to support what he or she is doing, and that's it. And it's like, both people have dreams. Let's see how we can collaborate, make each other's dreams come to reality. And especially, we can both take it like a mission field. Hey, you have 2 to 3 years. What do you want to do at this base together to make an impact? So that's a cool way to go over and think about it.
Absolutely. And I think, when I look back as a new military girlfriend and military spouse, back when I started this journey, there was no social media. There was no, there just wasn't support like there is now, especially for us, with the units that we were at. They were smaller. There's no big base. And so I had to get up off the couch. Like, I could have lived on that couch, like, in misery, being alone. And it's like, it wasn't a space for me to be. And I think now there are so many resources available to spouses, like whatever it is that is on their heart to do, like there is a way. It may look different, going back to school may not be brick and mortar. When we first got together, and I moved with him the first time, I was going to night school and I was working full time. We didn't have children and I was able to physically go to school. And then he started getting short-toured and I got scared. So instead of, physically going to school, which I would have preferred, I chose an online program. I had to get really creative when it was time for me to find internships. When I was doing my master's, I had a baby, and so we made it work. He would come home from work. I would hand over the baby and our other child, and I would be out the door and I would intern at night. And so there's always a way. It may look different, but that's okay.
Yeah. And that's especially in this COVID season that we're doing virtual school apocalypse, which we talked about last week on our show, and about going over and how to, one income to support, one income to defend. And we need to come together and say, hey, how do we go over and thrive in what we want to go do? So we might need to pivot a little bit or think of it a different way. Instead of just waiting for everything to come, it's just like the schools, like, for example, are quote unquote making the decision, dragging along. I'm like, let's be proactive like we do everything else in the military, veteran, first responder space. Let's go get at it. And that's cool that you're going over and doing that, because you said you did online school back, what? You said 05, 06, that time frame?
I got my undergrad in psychology. I started in 2009 and I graduated in 2011, right after my son was born.
Oh, and they were just getting into, because I do education training during the day. That model of online school must have been horrific, and you're going through and they're like, we don't know if we're going to do books or DVDs. Videos are kind of questionable. And it's like, what is this round thing I put into my DVD player? I'm like, oh boy.
It was definitely interesting. We had Blackboard, and I remember, like, for different labs, for like science classes, we had but it worked, and it was, a fantastic program that this university just started putting on, and, I'm thankful for it. But I think that's like the word of the year, and the word for military spouses is pivot. Like, it may not look like everybody else's life or their path, but that's okay. Make it your own.
That's really cool. Yeah, and we all need to learn to go over and pivot a bit. It's a 15-degree. We might be able to go back, but if we don't, it's hard at first, but at least it's not a flank and going 90,
Nope. It's, it's this life is challenging. Nobody said it wasn't going to be, but it's very beautiful too. I tell people all the time, what other job in the world could you have where you get to pick up and move somewhere else, where they pay for you to move, they move you, and every 3 years you get to explore the country or the world. Like, I feel like it's a blessing more than anything. And it makes it worth the hiccups that come along.
Yeah, that's good that you're there. Are you supporting specifically military and veterans when you're social work? Are you doing that specifically?
I had hoped to. When I finished up my master's earlier this year, I was a clinical intern for a veterans homeless shelter. And it's really important that I serve the veteran community. As a matter of fact, I finished the last portion of my year in schooling thanks to the VFW. They provided a scholarship for me.
Wow.
And so, like, I knew no matter what, I was going to dive in. Like, that was just going to be, it was where I was meant to be. Unfortunately, to work in the VA as a social worker, you have to have 1 year of post-grad experience. They don't really budge on that. And getting a job right now through COVID is very challenging. I'm fortunate that I love writing, and that I'm writing for all these military publications. I write for We Are the Mighty, Military Families Magazine, Military Spouse Magazine. And then I do a little work for Social Worker Magazine, but I have that space, and I'm looking to hopefully within the next month or two start providing therapy to children. But the long end goal would be that when my husband and I retire in Florida, that I can go work at the VA right there as a social worker and do that, until I'm ready to retire myself.
Cool. So you got, again, you're the war hero superhero. You're helping continually going over and empowering people. That's awesome.
I'll try.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get you to all think about it, but that's the goal. All right. So as a superhero, I know it's hard for you to accept this, but you are. How do you help others transform?
I think it all really starts with confidence, and believing in yourself. You know, in the military space, I think over the last few years, we've been hearing the word resiliency a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what resiliency really is the ability to cope. That's all it is. And it's something that I really try and foster in the people that I interact with, because you know, you may see, I'm going to use Instagram as a perfect example. Beautiful
Mm-hmm.
pictures, families are put together, everything's gorgeous,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't see the mess behind that. And I can tell you that my mess and my struggles are the same as yours, but I have the ability and I have the skills to cope through it. So I think that's a space that I start in, is that it doesn't matter who you are going to have life stressors. I mean, look at COVID. I mean, even with the knowledge that I have as a clinician, I was struggling. I was finding myself depressed, you know, this isolation and, you know, especially those first couple of months. But so I try and do my part to uplift people. If people are having a hard day, you know, remind them of the positive things they can do to, you know, encourage themselves and to really celebrate the small things, you know. This is going to sound really dumb, but my favorite part of the day, and I look forward to this the night before, like I'll be thinking about it at 7, is
Yeah.
waking up at 5:30 in the morning to have hot coffee alone. And for most people, they're like, you are crazy. Like, why would you want to get, but I am such a better human being when I have that time. I mean, I get up, I take care of my dogs, and then I sit and I have a really nice cup of coffee in peace and quiet. And it just really, it sets me up for success. So celebrate those small moments, look for joy. You know, if we focus on all the bad that's going on in this world, we're going to be depressed all the time, you know? So I don't want to say transform, because I think people have the power to change and shift, but I try and uplift,
Yeah.
you know, and encourage.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I can't drink coffee; it'll kill me. So it'll transform me to death. But at least you
Don't drink
transform to
coffee.
life. My wife wakes up and drinks it for me. She's a caramel macchiato espresso,
Oh, that sounds delightful.
and I smell it and I die.
It's my jam. It's there's just something about that time, because I will tell you that before I did that, I found myself irritable, because I have a toddler and I have a son that's 9 years old, and they're very needy, and I would wake up and immediately have to dive in, right? And so changing the way that I approach my day has changed my mood. It changes the way that I interact with people, you know, including my children. I'm a better mom for it. And I sacrifice a little bit of sleep. And that's the other thing that I would say to you. People tend to see someone who maybe you would quote as successful or doing a lot of things. And I get that sometimes too. Like, how do you write so much? How do you find the time? I get up at 5:30. My children, you know, don't wake up until 7:38. So for those 2 hours, that's where I do the bulk of my work. And then I can focus on their virtual school or the playing that I need to do with them or whatever it is. And I think we have this mindset that we can have it all, right? Well, your plate sometimes is going to look a little different. Maybe it's only 10% work one day, and maybe you have to shift that the next day to do whatever it is that you're passionate about. And that's okay. Don't overflow your plate, you know, but find a way to prioritize, you know, what's important.
No, and that's huge wisdom to go and pass along to people, and then saying like, hey, the hero converts inch by inch, and inch by inch is a cinch. A yard by yard is hard. When you're going over and saying like, because I teach people to write books in 2 days, they think I'm a nutbag, but whatever, you know, I can do it. The thing is, but it's that inch by inch that goes over and does that, and then you're now successful. People are like, how do you do a TV show? I'm like, I can teach you. It's not that hard. I took inch by inch, and then I eventually have a TV show, and now I have 7 streams. I started off at 1, and then I just added another. So it's the same thing. It's like, how do we become a war hero to superhero? It's a transformation inch by inch, a little bit better every day. Don't look at everybody else like, they're like awesome. They sucked, and they could still suck. They just go over and they just don't allow the suck to take them in and stay in there, you know?
I like that. We all suck at one point. Very true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. If we take off the mask and be who we really are, then we can all go over and grow together and then have that transformation compared to, I'm going to put it on and fake it. And like, IG is my best friend. And like, hold on, I lost 20 more pounds. You know,
Nobody has time for that. And honestly, I think it's really starting to reflect. I don't think people want that anymore. They want the raw, honest truth. They don't want fakeness. I think it just doesn't appeal to people anymore, especially now.
Yeah. Yeah. COVID ripped off the mask and then some.
Oh,
And actually, it ripped off a Snickers bar too, because it's still hangry. So getting back to one of the last things we always ask every person that jumps on is 3 superhero tactics. So if you had to visit yourself, no matter if it was years ago when you first became a male spouse or when you jumped in and did and helped out in 2019, the transformation of that, what advice would you either give yourself or as the people that you're working with, what do you give them as tactics to go over and to thrive?
oh my
Just 3.
goodness. This is a tough question. Jeez.
I know.
Oh my goodness. It's cliche, but I talk about all these things that I'm involved in and that I do, right? And they're fantastic and they're amazing. But I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give that younger male spouse is to not let that pursuit overtake you, that you are enough before any of that, right? I was enough before I did all the things that I did. And so having that sense of self to know that, know your value, know your worth. So if I could look down on that young girl, that's what I would say. You're enough right now. I mean, yeah, you're going to do some really awesome things, but that's not going to define who you are as a person. So I think that's number one, because I feel like even if you're not trying to compete with someone you see who's maybe a little bit further ahead than you are, in the back of your head, you're still thinking about it. And so I think starting in that space of like, I am enough, I am good right where I'm at, and having that, that sense of self is important. 2 would be, I talked about that balance, right? It's never, that plate is never perfect.
Yep.
I wish I would have learned that lesson early on, because I tried to do all the things. Like I remember when I went back to work after my son was about 18 months old, I was trying to, have a successful career, be this amazing mom, be this amazing wife. You cannot do everything all the time. You will exhaust yourself, and I wish that was a lesson I learned a little bit quicker than I did.
Yeah.
And third advice, don't settle. I think that's a real big one. I think doing things that we've never done before is very uncomfortable, right? If you get that pit in your stomach, I can tell you right now that when I was starting our nonprofit with my partners, I felt sick to my stomach every day. I'm like, we're dumb. Like, what are we doing? We can't manage this, because we all had busy lives, right? We all had jobs outside of this nonprofit. We have families. I literally wanted to throw up every day, but I kept pushing myself because I knew that we could do it. I knew that we had the capability to do something amazing. And so don't settle. If you've got something that's weighing on your heart that you really want to do, pursue it, and even if you fail, who cares? You are going to learn. I can't tell you how many times we have learned lessons through the process of the things that we've done or I've done. And those are just fodder for you to be more successful in the future. So don't settle. Just do it. Say yes.
Yeah, and most of our failures are because there's so much in the social media and everything else world. Even if we did fail, we recover. I mean, if famous people recover, I'm not going to go name names and bomb them, but we know those people that have gone over and be like, there's some people that have done insider trade and she sells awesome, if you know what I mean. It's like, what to do? So no one remembers that at all. It's like, and our quote unquote failures are, so small, but we take them on so huge. And it's like, all right, failure is first attempt in life. Go over and let's go into it. We're learning, we're growing, and then we can go learn as much as we can and live and thrive. So, I mean, those are great tactics to go past to anybody, no matter who's listening.
Yeah, definitely. Seek growth. I think that's super important. I'm not the same person. I'm 35 years old. I am not who I was, 15 years ago when I, met the man I was going to marry and become a military spouse. I'm not that girl. And I don't think, number one, we shouldn't look back and have regrets. We should always be looking forward, but celebrate those growths and those things that you are doing.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So I wanted to talk about these 2 websites that we've been advertising. So everybody's been looking in the ticker. We see your personal website. And we also have this one over here. So you can give us a little more information how we can uplift you at War Hero to Superhero and how people can connect with you at inspireupfoundation.org.
Yeah, they can. So I have my personal website, and that's really just more for a lot of my writing work. I do have a blog on there that I've just started doing. I'm going to try and be more diligent about. So if there's a project, a literary project, or an article, or something that you're seeking a writer or collaborator on, that's where you can find me. InspireOutFoundation.org is our website for our nonprofit. We focus on the military community, but we're more about collaborating all around to serve communities in need. We focus on education, community building, and empowerment. We've done a couple of projects. We launched in April, and we gave away 500 hearts, like stuffed hearts made out of old military uniforms, to military kids for Month of the Military Child. We do boxes for military spouses to uplift and encourage them, just things like that. We're still growing, but you can follow us there. You can find us on every social media platform. What else? I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else about the websites, but yeah.
That's cool. So everybody that's listening, no matter where you're at listening, love you to connect with her at InspireUpFoundation.org or her personal website. Oh, love to see your book. Do you got a copy back there so you can show people your book?
I do not, because due to COVID, it was delayed. We were supposed to have it in hand now, but now they're not shipping it until the second week of September. So stay tuned.
Yeah, everything's been going slow. I've been published for a while too, and it's like you try to get something up. It's like,
Yeah, that was a lot of fun though, that project. I wrote a book with 19 other military spouses, and we all shared walking in faith while also living this life, and so it's filled with our stories, and I'm really proud of it. It was a fantastic project to collaborate on.
Well, that's cool. So maybe we can catch you if you get the most views. You can go over and show on our show. So I want to thank you, Jessica, for going over and joining, and people that are going over and watching. We hope you catch this entire inspiring interview of 26 minutes and 52 seconds. But if you don't have that much time, we have a competition we do each month, is that whoever gets the most views within 3 days, and now we're on 7 platforms. So if you can't find us, there's no excuse. I'm sorry. You just have to be dead or something. No, I'm kidding. But we just ask you to go over. If you can't watch the 27 minutes and 13 seconds, go over and do at least 3 seconds. That contributes a view, at least on Facebook. 30 seconds on YouTube. I just found out that one. I'm not sure on Twitch. So if you're watching live, I think it's like, I don't know, 17 hours or whatever. But whatever, how long you have to watch, just, hey, check it in the background. And if Jessica gets the most views in 3 days, we compare all of them aggregated wise. She will get uplifted to our TV show, War Hero to Superhero, which is serving 10 to 14,000 people a week with this awesome content. So we want to thank you, Jessica, for going over and joining. Please go connect with her and her organizations, and also look out for her book, so when the book gets COVID approved and sanitized and everything, you can go over and purchase. The great thing is, if it's digital, boom, it's always Sani free. Oh,
I like that. You are smart. They can pre-order it. If they go to my website, jessicamanfre.com, you can see the cover there, and you can pre-order it. Brave Women, Strong Faith.
There you go. Sounds like an awesome title, and hopefully has an awesome tagline. So I want to thank you all for joining. And again, you guys, this is always a dialogue. So just like Rochelle joined in, you can join in anytime. We'll be looking at this content. So thank you for joining, and